I have 20 minutes to give you now, so how do you do all of that? And I have to tell you that I've just landed from New York, was given this is research of 600, it was a review of 600 studies of bully prevention programs. And the most dismal thing is they have clearly discovered in a meta-analysis only 1/4 of them work. Well, we're now going to look at what does work, and I'm going to be fairly blunt to say at the base of any good program, at any of this that we're looking at, is good, solid character. There's 3 things, though. It's the ABCs, and we're going to figure out how. Number 1 is we've got to change kids' attitudes, staff, and the world, that aggression is not the way to get your answer. Number 2, behavior habits, we know at age 8, become entrenched. Let's do this a lot faster, folks. And number 3, it's character. It's a respectful learning environment, and we know that that's really what's going to make a difference. So let's start looking at, this is your checklist from what we know that research says does work that can turn this thing around. And here's some points. First, we know from Dan Olve, we know from Norway, we know very clearly that attitude of our staff is absolutely essential, and this is the respectful learning environment. When we look at the fastest way to turn bullying around, it's a warm, positive environment. It's firm limits that we know are going to be unacceptable to behavior that are followed through. It's consistent, non-hostile. Zero tolerance does not work. Most research says it actually can increase victimization and increase bullying. Strong adults who are firm models. And now your first question is, how you doing there? Because don't start with the kids unless you've got here with the staff. The second thing, every bit of research says everybody's got to be on board together. Firm policy that is top down but all around. But the key that we also know is that parents seem to be in a baseline for every effective program. You've got to involve them and they've got to be taught. You all raised your hand that said that you did evidence-based data gathering. Make sure you do, because every research also says that it's absolutely critical. Don't assume that you know what your kids are saying. Anonymous surveys are essential, and from that, you're going to be able to get really the data that you need. Anne was right on the mark, and this is what we need to do. A lot of the stuff on those surveys isn't coming out, so give kids a voice. Focus groups of students is absolutely essential. Every time I do that in a school, I get more information from the kids, and the staff is at a state of shock. Where'd you get it? They tell people that fly in, that just sit down and say, here's what we're really concerned about. University of California, Davis also gives you a phenomenal clue. New research is saying, don't overlook the second-tier kid on the social jungle thing, on the social networking. The second-tier child is the one most vulnerable and most likely to be doing the bullying, not the popular. A lot of the stuff that we thought in terms of those social maladaptation of the kids is going out the window. We've got to start looking at the research of what matters and make sure we're looking at those kids. The other thing that all of research is saying is keep in mind that bullying by nature is a relationship problem. We've got to start studying social dynamics, and we've got to be very key into our school of who's pulling the power and who's not, because a bully is winning with the power. So with those in mind, those are the bottom line. The only other thing that I'm going to tell you is absolutely key. There's one of the fastest ways to turn your bullying around is identify what's called your hot times and your hot spots. If you do what Ann said and talk to those kids, they'll be able to say, here's the places I don't feel the safest. Here's the places where it's happening the most. It's almost always predictable. The key spots on a school are your bathrooms, your hallways, your lockers, your stairwells, your cafeterias where exclusion in middle school and high school is huge, and your playgrounds. If you get adult supervision in those areas, one middle school principal made a full cutout of herself, this big cardboard cutout, put it in the middle of the hall and said, I'm watching you. You never know when I'm going to show up. Guess what happened? Bullying went down. If kids know they're being monitored, it will be reduced. Use your smartness. Some of the stuff we're overlooking. Here's the 6Rs. We just went through. Those are the cores that you have to have. Here's the 6Rs to make the change. And what research is also saying is one program isn't going to do it. It has to be a multi-dimensional approach with a lot of factors that we're going to say do work from meta-analysis, but you also have to make sure that everybody's on board together. Once you have those little preliminaries, here's the 6Rs that are absolutely essential. You're going to set clear rules that we know. Character matters, and in this school we are nice and we are going to be empathic, but we're also going to teach how. Number 2, everybody on board in your school has got to be able to figure out how to recognize bullying. One of the biggest mistakes is you define it one way, you define it another way. Let's be clear, and I'll show you how. Third is, kids need to be able to safely know how to report what they are telling us as they grow up from 5th grade on. They no longer are coming to tell us, the staff. Why? Because we didn't listen, they say. Oh, how sad is that? So we got to give them other options, because we've got to keep a pulse to make sure our kids feel cared about, feel belong, and for heaven's sakes, feel safe. 4, everybody needs to know how to respond when you see it or when you hear it. We know we got to teach staff how to respond with empathic responses, but in particular, what we got to do is teach bystanders, the kids, 85% of them who are watching it and viewing it, what to do. There's the missing link. 4 is we got to help victims learn how to refuse and refuse earlier, otherwise victimization continues. We are looking at, and just did a documentary on bullycides. We followed a number of children who were suicidal, or their parents or the child had killed themselves, and I'm telling you, I'm still shaken. This is not a phase, and it continues through life. We're now looking at MRIs and watching victims' brain patterns, and it is a scary trend, folks. And 6 is, let's have some empathy for some of these bullies. Unless we turn them around by age 26, if they're doing this at age 8, they got a 1 in 4 chance to have a criminal record. So there's your 6Rs. Let's look at what a school does to turn them around, and you start with setting clear rules together as a group. That means we're going to sit down together and we're going to figure out what we stand for. The KIPS program has the easiest rule known to man. You work hard and you be nice, and that's it, and we're going to validate that. But we understand that if everybody's on board with the same rules, at least that's clear, and any respectful environment has those. It means there's Kelowna and then Okanagan. We're the Blue Ribbon School, or we're the Blue Balloon School. She makes it into an acronym. It's the principal announcing it at assembly. By the way, assemblies had very low correlation to turning a bully program around, but they do help set a tone of here's what's expected. Assemblies need to be ongoing so kids understand what's expected, why it's important, but you keep reviewing the rules. In this room, in this school, we build each other up, we don't deflate each other. That's the acronym they use. 3 rules seem to be critical that Olve's method from Norway says are the rules in your classroom. Classroom management and clear discipline that's ongoing in a respectful learning environment, hands-on, and that meta-analysis keep coming up clearly as one of the highest correlations to reduce bullying. 3 rules that Olve says are important. You listen and you respect everybody's ideas. You think about the feelings of others, and we say only nice things. What you're actually doing there is character. It's empathy, conscience, and self-control. Class meetings, hands down, yes, and I see that you've got them going on in one of your programs. Go view how to do them if you're not doing them. The democratic environment seems to clearly reduce bullying. Autocratic environment in a classroom increases it. The tone matters. Videos, by the way, that came up as one of the things that does help. Alone doesn't. But videos of splices so kids can talk about it and understand why it's important seem to be essential. The absolute hands down is ongoing parent education, ongoing, not that it's October, so let's do an hour presentation. But we've got to educate parents. They need to know what the signs are of bullying, of their own child being a bully. They also need to know how to turn it around, and they want ongoing communication. Meta-analysis says this is one of the most effective ways that we may be missing, is get those parents involved early. Second thing is we've got to teach kids how to recognize it, and staff recognizes it. One of the things that we're seeing is too many people are misinterpreting bullying. So what is it? The hands down seems to be that there's always a negative intent. It's usually repeated, and there's an imbalance. It's not aggression of 2 kids. It's one kid who cannot hold their own. Once you know the definition, then you're going to make sure everybody understands it. And you make sure that each grade level, you understand the different kinds of bullying, so you're aware of those signs. It's hard, or certainly in terms of the electronic bullying, but you better be very clear that that's where a majority of our kids right now are doing their cruelest acts, and it is impacting our climate, our culture, and our kids' character. Comprehensive ongoing staff training, meta-analysis says, is essential as well. But it has to be a staff who understands what it is, what we're about, and changing the belief structures of the staff so they understand it. Then, one of the things that I love, this is the Northern Lights School Division up at Alberta. What they decided to do is to make sure that everybody was on board together. They sent a shared PowerPoint to every single classroom so the teacher could make sure that we're talking together about it, but everybody was on board with the same definition.